Hi, I'm Scott Humphrey, CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, and this is Leadership Live. Well, we're winding down 2021. I want to make sure you're fully prepared as we go into 2022. As a reminder, we're going to go alphabetically through leadership traits, starting with the letter A, going all the way through Z. We're going to give you some words that represent skill sets and leadership traits that you should apply to your own life. They'll make you better as a husband or wife, as a leader, as a community citizen, church leader, whatever it may be. So I hope that you'll be committed to going through those weeks with me as we look at traits that will make you better at what you do. I also want to thank you because in order to have new information to share with you each week, I've gone back and reread some books that have been important to me in my life. One of them we've been talking about for weeks is It's Your Ship, which is right behind me. It's an amazing book about Captain Michael Abrashoff, who took over the leadership of the Benfold, one of the worst ships in the Navy, and how he turned that ship around. And one of the things that he talks about in there is the importance of a trait that I believe may be the most important leadership trait you can have. Don't let that statement go mildly by your ears. I think this leadership trait is the most important, especially as it relates to creating loyalty with your team members, with your children, with any leadership capacity you might have. Chapter 4 of his book talks about listening aggressively. Listen, if you could have one skill set that would make you stand out as a leader, be an excellent listener. And he said, well, how do you work on that? Is that something you just have or you don't? Well, I'll tell you, some people have it more than others. I'm not a natural listener. I have to make myself do it because my mind is always racing to something else that needs to get done. And if somebody comes by the office and just wants to sit and chat, sometimes I'll really struggle because I'm already focused on what needs to be done. That sends a really bad message to the person who spent enough of their time and cared enough to come by and speak with you. Listening aggressively can be a great way to enhance relationships and build loyalty. It's also a phenomenal way to be better at what you do. In other words, to change the skills that are necessary for success within your organization. Think about it. When you talk to people who live the life on the front line, they have the best advice for what they would do to make it better. So Michael Abrashoff, right after taking over leadership of the Benfold, decided that he would learn the name of every crew member that he had. In fact, over a month, he learned the names of 310 people, putting that face with that name. And he said over time, he actually learned the names of all their spouses for those who were married. That's an amazing trait. He had to spend time with them to do that. But that wasn't enough. He really wanted to listen to them to understand why they joined the Navy. Why was this important to them? What did they want to accomplish in their life? So he could be a part of helping them accomplish that goal. And so he determined that he would interview every person on the ship. Now, don't miss this skill. We've talked about it before. Just because you've hired someone already doesn't mean you can't interview them again. Sit down with them. Ask them about the best manager they ever had. Listen to those skill sets in that manager and see how you can apply them to your own life so that you can get more productivity out of that individual. Abrashoff found out from the people that were living on the front line that there were some things that they were very frustrated about, especially the new sailors. Typically, they had to repaint the ship 6 times a year. That was caused primarily because the bolts would rust, and that rust would run down the side of the ship. So during one of the interviews, when he asked people, what would you change about the Benfold if you could, one of the young men said, I would get stainless steel screws and bolts. Well, they called the Navy Yard. They didn't have them, and so they found someone outside that did. And they began to use stainless steel screws and bolts, and it went from 6 times painting the ship a year to 1 time. That improved morale. It also gave these people more time to spend on focusing on being good at what the ship wanted to be known for. Their skill sets, their expertise in marksmanship, whatever it might be. Listen, listening is not easy for some of us, but it's worth spending the time on to get better. I've fallen in love with a show again. It's called Bull. You may have seen this. It's a gentleman who is a psychologist. He has 3 PhDs in psychology, and he helps to select juries to get the outcome that his lawyers want. And he does that by evaluating people. It reminded me that listening is not always something you do with your ears, but can also be done with your eyes, because much of what he does is he evaluates the body language of people. I encourage you, when you sit down with your people and spend time with them, whether it's 5 minutes standing in the doorway or sitting down to do an interview, as Michael Abrashoff did, make sure that you're listening not only with your ears, but also with your eyes. Look to see if the body reaction is saying the same thing as the words. If there were one skill set I would tell you that you could focus on in 2022 to make you the best leader you've ever been and to create loyalty among your people, I would tell you to be an aggressive listener. Work on that skill set for the next few weeks. You'll be ahead of the game going into 2022. And then go out there and lead.